Good morning. Welcome back to the Done Deal Show. Sorry for the lateness this morning. StreamYard did the weirdest thing ever. We literally were in it, but we couldn't add our cameras. So we had to go to the straight fact StreamYard show for this afternoon, which it would let us use. So I have no idea why that error happened. But I'm joined this morning. I just want to say sorry to everyone, the live viewers, where we were going live a little late. I'm joined by Cal from Coppish this morning, and we've got some big news to talk about. We are looking at Liverpool, Isak. The done deal for Diaz is over the line. Isak is going to be next. We're delving into that deal. We're talking about Hato to Chelsea and that getting itself over the line. Chelsea fans buzzing about this signing coming in. We're looking at United as well. Reportedly this morning, there has been a snub for Manchester United and they will miss out on the player. But we obviously want to get your views, your opinions on that in our comments section below. But before we go any further, Cal, how are you, mate? You well? You good?
I'm a Liverpool fan, bro. I'm great at the moment. I'm great.
I bet, mate. I bet it's it must be a weird one because the amount of people that have even that just doubted that you would even make a bid or go in for Isak. He would never force a way out to play for Liverpool. I mean, it's just gone the complete opposite to the way a lot of people have suggested.
Yeah, I want to go straight off the bat because I want to keep the same energy. I always believe in a player should respect the club, regardless of whether they're staying or leaving. And look, us as Liverpool fans had a massive, massive go at Trent for how he left the club. And we've done it in previous years, myself especially when it comes to Coutinho. If Isak has gone AWOL and he has kind of done a bit of a madness behind the scenes, I'm not a fan of doing stuff like that. However, what I will say is respect is a two-way street. So I don't know if the club has made him promises, not fulfilled their promises, and hence why he's acting like this. Because I've never heard of anything behind the scenes of him being like a prima donna or anything like that. So I don't know if this is because of the Liverpool transfer or because of lack of promises being delivered or a combination of both. I just don't like transfers like this being played out in public. That being said, I'm also not going to be a hypocrite and be stupid and say I'm not overly excited if we pull this one off because he's the player I've wanted from before we signed Nunes because I thought he was the guy. And since he's been at Newcastle, he's shown that he can be absolutely brilliant. So I think surrounding with even better players than what he has at Newcastle, in my opinion, in a system where he can thrive as well, I think could be sensational. But we still have to get the deal over the line, which means Newcastle have to get the players in that they need as well.
Yeah, look, I agree. I agree with so my energy's the same. I don't really care either way. Does that make sense? Years ago now, my outlook on players forcing moves changed. And I don't remember who said it to me now. It could have been my dad, could have been an uncle, could have just been a friend. It was, have you noticed that we all get angry when a player forces a move away from us, but none of us care when a player that we deem surplus to requirements is just cast aside by a football club? Like no one. Like I know, I get why Liverpool fans were angry at Trent. I'm not telling them how to feel, but no one had that reaction when Flanagan was moved on. Why? Because he wasn't important to you. So it doesn't matter if he's put upon the scrap heap and you move on to somebody else. Yeah. And I had that conversation maybe 8-9 years ago, and it honestly changed my outlook towards players. And we have to be more loyal. Do you? No, we all say that we want our clubs to win. We're here to win. That's all we want, etc. Well, if that's the truth, if that's the case, then this is what it's about. Then this is how you win, right? You have to keep improving. And at the end of the day, with Newcastle, as sorry for their fans as I feel that they're losing such a brilliant player, I don't think it undoes their build. I don't think it sets them. I've heard people talk such nonsense.
I think it helps their build in the same way that when we sold Coutinho, it helped our build.
Break that down for people because I've been called out for. I've Neeks and Staffy, loads of guys have just said I think over the next couple of years you will see Newcastle continue to improve and be a better team. I've been called out as if to say that is a terrible take.
So with the Coutinho thing, again, I really want us to keep Coutinho, and maybe this was a sign of how our ownership was run at the time, but we were very much sell to buy in that period. When we sold Coutinho, we were able to get Virgil, Fabinho, Alisson, pretty much with that money. And then we sold a couple of other players. We brought in Naby Keita, Shaqiri as well. From 17-18 to 18-19, when that all happened, Liverpool went from a team who struggled to get into fourth spot, who pushed Man City to the last day of the season, on 97 points, lost out by 1 point, and then also won the Champions League. The following season, they won the Premier League. I'm not saying Newcastle are going to do that, but selling someone like an Isak, especially with their PSR issues and all of that stuff, it gives them more wiggle room. Let's make no bones about it. They went in for Trafford. They didn't get him. We all know they needed a new goalkeeper. We all know they need a new centre-back. Sven Botman is excellent, but how often is he able to get on the pitch? They need another centre-back. Their midfield three, probably arguably the best balanced midfield three in the Premier League. But what happens if one of them's unavailable? We saw when Tonali was out how much that quality in the midfield and how much they lack that consistency. What happens if one of them gets an injury? Hopefully it doesn't happen, but if that happens, they need another midfielder. They need a striker. If they keep Isak, they need a striker because Callum Wilson's gone. If they lose Isak, they need two. So that's 4 or 5 players they need. Them selling Isak frees them up to actually go and get players in that position. Now, whether they can attract the players or not, that becomes a different situation, a different question because they've struggled so far. Look, I'm gonna sound like I'm just a Liverpool fan trying to glaze and do what's best for my club, and I am. But at the same time, speaking objectively, Newcastle selling Isak actually does benefit them in the long run potentially.
There's another element to that as well, which I think people are just forgetting. It can galvanize a team losing a top player, especially when they read the media, they read social media. And I've been watching snippets from the Man United tour. These guys watch our content.
Yeah, I know.
I've watched Bruno turn around to John, who I haven't seen or spoke to in years, but I used to do stuff with him on Full-Time Devils. I watch your stuff. Every time Rio Ferdinand sees a YouTuber, like, I watch you. You know they see us. Whether they like us or not is another question, but you know they see it. So I think with everybody out there writing Newcastle off, saying they're going to fall off, saying that it's over, terrible run club, I just think that will bring the group closer together, an element of a siege mentality. I still think they're going to sign a very good striker. They could end up with Sesko. There's talk today that he's going to snub Man United for Newcastle, or United are going to pivot away to Watkins. Either way, it will leave. I really do not think he's a bad replacement. Isak's brilliant, by the way, and will score lots of goals for Liverpool. But you're also not talking about a player that was scoring 40 league goals a season every year. You are still talking about someone that, listen, he was hitting the magic 20 mark the last 2 years, but it wasn't scoring for the Newcastle an astronomical amount of goals. Can they bring someone in they've got a Langer on the right, who I think is going to score more goals than their previous right winger. Can they bring in a striker? Can they then they've got the money for a striker anyway because they wanted Ekitike. Then it's about using that Isak money to replace him in the aggregate. Can you get some more goals from midfield? Can you get some more goals in this position? And I think you can replace the 22, 23 goals a season he scores in the league. I do believe you can replace him, not like for like, but in that way, and you can build a bigger and stronger squad. I just don't see Newcastle being derailed by losing him, as many are suggesting. I really don't. But from your perspective, I mean, he's put his house on the market now. He's refusing to train. I mean, he is so bought in. I mean, Fabrizio has been winding up Newcastle fans. It's his dream. He wants nobody else. He's dedicated already. How excited are you about getting him now, especially now the Diaz deal has been confirmed? You've got that money coming in. How excited are you at the prospect of Alexander Isak being a Liverpool player? What do you think it does for Liverpool next season?
Oh, it takes us up to another level. It makes us Premier League favourites. Obviously, you still have to play the games, but it makes us Premier League favourites. Again, obviously, we unfortunately lost Jota. I think the whole plan was for Jota to be the backup striker and for us to bring in Isak. Obviously, Jota lost his life, unfortunately, rest in peace. So I think that's why we moved for Ekitike as well, but also to just give it that foundation, that bolster, just in case anything did happen with the Isak deal. Isak is a transition. I'm just looking for the right word. He's a player that takes us from being a world-class team to potentially an elite team. I think he's that much of a quality footballer. And you look at Haaland, for example, people thought, City can't get any better. Haaland turned up there and they won the treble. I'm not saying we're going to do the treble before you click me, but I do think Isak, or bringing a player of Isak's ilk, just gives you that pizzazz. It gives you that look on the outlook, or the world outside just looks and goes, I don't really want to play Liverpool. Because if Isak's not on, Salah might be on. If Salah's not on and Isak's not on, Gakpo might be on. If all three of them aren't on, you've still got Ekitike there. I still think we'll go for another attacker after Isak as well. Then you've got Florian Wirtz there. McAllister can pop up with a goal. Frimpong can pop up with a goal. Virgin Kanate can score from set pieces. Like, it just, the options are endless. It allows us to rotate with different formations as well. I'm not even taking a mick out of Newcastle fans when I say this, but we could go 2 up top if we really wanted to with Ekitike and Isak in some games. It's a beautiful feeling, man. This is what I've wanted for Liverpool for the longest. And anyone who knows me and watches my content often knows how much I've talked about Isak and how much of a great striker I think he is. So for us to get him, amazing stuff.
Yeah, look, I've seen a few people talk about it's. I think I saw James Alcott talk about. I'm paraphrasing what he said and boiling it down to too many cooks as an example. I've seen people say, "What about the balance? How are you going to keep everybody happy?" And I'm just like it's all Sky Sports, all Talk Sport nonsense. It's all nonsense. Liverpool's core is remaining first and foremost. 2, are we forgetting that both Ekitike and Isak are very comfortable moving and operating in wide positions? This idea as well that your formation that Sky Sports puts up on the graphic is this rigid system that doesn't move and doesn't change. So even if there's a week where the graphic shows Ekitike starting on the left and Isak in the center, you know there's going to be interchange between them. Kirkes is going to hug that wing as an example. You'll probably find that Ekitike will come inside and invert. There are times where you will use Gakpo out wide. You may even buy another left-sided winger. For me, I look at this fearfully because there are options. You can play Ekitike that can invert. You can use the width of Kirkes, as I've already mentioned. You can do a variation of things. You could have some games where you decide, actually, we're going to play Wirtz at 10 and have 2. And have 2. You could actually have games where you rest Salah and you go, instead of having a 3 across the top, you can put Wirtz in a 10 and have split strikers that spread out to the side. And this is, but this is, again, my thing is this. I would rather look at it from a positive standpoint because I think it's going to be a very good outcome for Liverpool. But I would rather live in that world and then be pleasantly surprised if it doesn't work. Yeah. I am not going to sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to find some obscure little example, some little nuance to make it sound like it's going to be terrible. And I'm not going to labor under that illusion and delusion and then just feel absolutely finished when it goes the way everybody knows it's going to, which is Liverpool are going to be potent. They're going to be dangerous. There is balance in this. They're making it sound like you bought 2 old fart number 9s with no technical ability, no movement, no ability to work the channels, can't dribble past the man. The fact is that Ekitike, so far in his career, everyone was criticizing him at Liverpool a few weeks ago, and United even so, oh, but he's not like a bagsman. He's more of a facilitator. Now they're saying, how can you buy 2 bagsmen? Well, I thought they bought a facilitator. I'm just sick and tired of the mainstream media's nonsense. I really am. It's like watching United trade. I'm listening to people on Sky Sports, and it's like listening to United trade tweet. It's crazy to me. It really is. So I'm sickened that you're doing this, mate. I'm not going to lie. I'm sickened by it.
See, that is music to my ears, Terry. Really is. Here's the thing with that as well. Look, we've seen it in other teams and stuff like that. That we've seen where the Galacticos, for example, we've seen other teams where they brought in PSG is an example that springs to mind. Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, and it didn't work. The difference with those teams, and I think what Liverpool are building, is we're building from a winning foundation with a squad that was very small last season, and we've improved the squad. Not just that, I think we brought in players who, even though they're high quality, I don't think they've got an ego about them as such. Like, they maybe have a footballing arrogance, but I don't think they have a massive ego about them. And I think they knew coming into Liverpool what it's going to be. You're not going to be a guaranteed starter maybe every week, but we're trying to build something not just for one season, but for about 3 or 4 seasons potentially. So come along for the ride. If you don't want to be here, then we'll pivot onto someone else. And I think we've mapped out this summer really well so far. Defensively, we need to sort that out because we've sold Kwanzaa, haven't brought in a centre-back yet. I think we potentially need 2, given Gomez isn't got the best injury record. If we do that, then I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be sitting here as Liverpool fans saying, look, we can do this. We should be doing this.
Yeah, mate, I hear you. I hear you 110%. I think what you're building is fantastic. Yeah, there's always a possibility that it doesn't work. Again, I'm hearing all these. Oh, I've seen teams buy big before and it not work. Yeah, you've seen sort of Newcastle have had this label. Oh, I saw the bow money at Tottenham get wasted. Are we comparing Tottenham's owners to Newcastle's and Liverpool's? This is the problem with the examples is that they're flawed because you're talking about who's doing them. So it's a little bit like, I don't know, me and you both need to build our kids rockets for a school project. And I've found someone online who's going to help me. Now, this guy he's worked in the tech industry before, but nothing's ever worked. Every vehicle he's built has blown up. No one's ever bought the idea. He's broke, and he's broke. He's sort of broke from a business standpoint and never achieved anything. And it's like you have managed to get Elon Musk to come to your house to build the rocket, right? Yeah. And then it's like we're using the same materials. We're in the same competition. We've got the same materials, the same judges, and people going, well, the results are probably going to be about the same, aren't they? Because they're using the same materials. I've seen this before. You have to look at who is helping you build it. You've got to look at who's running the show. Everybody's mindset would change. It's like suggesting that Fergie would have had the same last 13 years as their other managers. The answer is no, he wouldn't have done, because the club wouldn't have operated in the same way. The standards wouldn't have been so bad. That's my problem with a lot of the analysis around Liverpool. I find it so flawed.
Well, think about this, Terry. What did we hear 12 months ago? When Wenger left Arsenal fell off. When Fergie left United fell off. We were all told as Liverpool fans, Klopp's leaving you guys are done, Aura's gone, you guys are going to fall off. Straight away I said to them, I was like, well, for a start, Fergie had an aging squad when he left Man United. We don't. We had rebuilt the midfield, and we had other young players that were coming through and still at the club. Arsene Wenger at Arsenal left them, and their squad was in tatters. Our squad wasn't in tatters. And everyone kept on telling me, Liverpool are done, they're going to fall off, and we went and won the league. So just because something's happened to another set of team and another set of players doesn't mean it's going to happen to us. And again, I'm not sitting there saying it can't go wrong. Of course it can. Like in 3 months' time, we could be sitting there going, well, Wirtz and Isak, they want to play every single game, and Slot's not having it. And Salah's saying, I want to be the main man, but Isak's the one scoring all the goals. Like, we could be sat here with that. But we could also be sitting here in 3 months' time going, bloody hell, how do you stop Liverpool? Because Isak, Salah, Wirtz, and whoever else are doing an absolute madness.
Mate, could not agree with you more. And on the Klopp leaving thing, it was one of the worst, most uneducated football takes I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. I don't blame the fans. I blame the media again, because they have not spent enough time in the last decade educating football fans that sporting directors, technical directors, football directors are every bit as important now as managers. Every bit as important. And they have been in Europe forever. It's why we all know the names of the Real Madrid presidents, as an example, because they're the ones who actually run the football club. The coach, of course, gets the accolade and gets all the fame, but those football clubs on the continent have never been built in the image of the manager. The reason why the English clubs have had to adapt to that is because predominantly at the top level, we don't even hire English managers anymore, British managers anymore. We're bringing in foreign managers, which is fine. But they're not brought up in a culture where managers run football clubs. They are head coaches. And that is what Liverpool got so perfectly right. It's also why I don't believe this is going to crumble, because the likes of Edwards and the likes of Hughes, they know what they're doing. This isn't, yes, it appears like you're building Galacticos, but you're not. You're buying in it wasn't that Real Madrid, by the way, bought superstars that they underachieved based on the names they brought in. The reason why Man United failed isn't because we went and bought some of the best players in the world that were available to us. It's because we were putting square pegs in round holes. We weren't adding the right players to the right system, as an example. We were bringing in players that didn't want to be. It isn't like Wirtz went, I don't want Liverpool. And he went, oh, what are Bayern paying you? 300 grand a week. We'll treble it. You didn't do that. They're bought into wanting to play for your club from day one. So the examples I'm seeing to bring Liverpool down are so uneducated, so stupid, so flawed. It is unbelievable. And even if you don't win the league, it's only going to be because a Man City or an Arsenal or maybe a Chelsea are just better. I don't think you're going to be a bad team next season. There is a world where Gyökeres comes into Arsenal and just all those games they were drawing last year, 14 of them, He stops that from happening and turns 90% of them into wins, and therefore they finish ahead of you by 2 points. That doesn't mean that your signings have been a flop just because you didn't win the league in that moment. You know you're coming again the next year to challenge, and that's the irony in all of this for me. As I just keep hearing just a load of old nonsense about Liverpool. It shouldn't bother me because I'm a United fan, but it really is bothering me. It's getting right under my skin, mate. Getting right under my skin. I don't like the bad analysis. I hate it.
I hear it, but I'm sensing, Terry, like maybe I'm off here, but I'm sensing you're starting to come around to the Liverpool way. And if you are, bro, you know where I am, man. You know where I am.
Listen, man, I look at it this way. I feel a bit like, you know, when you watch great movies, great films, you've seen it with Apollo and Rocky as an example. And even we'll keep it in the Rocky universe. You saw Adonis Creed and Drago's son, whose name I forget. Like, they actually cut that scene, which I shouldn't have. But by the time Creed 3 comes out, they've patched things up. I sort of view Liverpool in that way. I despise you on a footballing level, but I respect the institution, because I do think, I've always felt this. If there was one, you always ask United fan, what one team in the world would you make disappear if you could? Most go Liverpool, just snap reaction. I'd never do that. I think there's a yin and a yang thing. And I believe that Man United become
need each other.
Less of a football club if you disappear. It's the first fixture I look for. When are we playing Liverpool? Home and away. And I don't like you on a footballing level, but I respect the fact that you've been built organically over 100+ years, built upon success. And what I'm not going to do as well is sit here and slag it off. I'll tell you why, because this is the maddest bit. Why are you always defending rivals? Because they're behaving in a way that I want my club to. So therefore, when my club, and hopefully we've started doing it and we start to see the fruits of that labor over the next few years, I'm going to look a right dickhead praising Man United for doing things X, Y, and Z while slagging you off for doing them prior. It's more about just preserving myself in terms of, well, this is the right way to behave, the right structure, the right hierarchy. Like today, it's reported we're walking away from Emi Martinez at 40 million, and we're just not going to bow down to it. And I'm like, great decision, but we need a keeper. Yes, but in the longer term, paying double the valuation of a player, that type of behavior is what leads to failure. And so I want to do more what Liverpool are doing. And
does this mean you're keeping Onana in goal?
I think we'll sign a younger. Well, this is how we'll spin it, and I love it. We're doing the spin like Liverpool as well. We're going to sign a younger keeper, and we're going to say it's to compete with Onana, but it'll still be to replace him. We won't, barring the 5 that we can't pretend we don't want, because their agents have leaked it out that we want them gone. So you've just got to own it, right? We want rid of Onana and Rasmus and these guys, but we're doing a Liverpool. We're just saying, no, we don't. They're part of our first team. We like them. We rate them. Now, everyone knows we're bullshitting, but it's like, no, let's keep that pretense up. That helps you.
Value. Yeah,
exactly. So if everyone we sign is to replace who's in the team and not competition, it's harder to sell those guys. So I'm going to help the club in that regard, get the right price for players. Why? Because that means we'll spend more money on improving the squad. I'm not going to help a rival get a player for cheaper by going, we're bullshitting, we hate Onana. Why would I not help my club improve my own squad? It just seems counterproductive. Like, and a lot of Man United fans, honestly, they're key stage 1, bro. They're key stage 1 online. They just come out with the most basic stuff. It's crazy, man. They really do. They do. I didn't even realize you guys were playing.
We're about to start now.
So I'm gonna be sticking that game on. That's the worst bit as well, because none of your games are on TV. I've had to also, the business did this. I've had to pay to watch Liverpool games. It's like,
love it.
I know. Well,
I'm saying, Terry, you might as well just commit to it, bro.
No, well, it is right. Well, I'm gonna say I paid. We've got a brand deal, right? And this is how I did it. So I'm not directly giving them any money. I'm like, part of the deal is you've got to pay for their subscriptions and give me your login. So it's actually one of our brands. Who's doing it for us? Magic Mind. They've paid for it all, and I have their logins. I'm not personally giving them any money. But so just so I can watch these games. So and I'm not funding anything. I've got a sponsor too. That being said, I can't cover clubs and talk about how good or bad they're going to be this season and not watch any of their preseason. Again, exactly, that would be an absolutely redundant and backwards thing to do. So it has to be done. Look, I know you've got to shoot, mate. You've got to go off and do that. And we'll catch up with you again soon, Cal.
Always a pleasure, bro.
Thanks, brother. Speak to you soon, my man. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you. Viewers, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribing. Look, a few other deals to talk about this morning. And I want to speak Hato to Chelsea as well, because that's one that's a really big update came out last night from Fabrizio Romano, which is that the here we go is going to happen at any moment. I mean, it might have even happened since we've been live. No, he has put an update out, but it's not that. And what he said last night, I want to go back and find the tweet. Here it is. He last night said, update, he says, João Hato's deal is now very close. The here we go is coming soon. Negotiations at the final stage after Ajax new direct talks today. Hato waiting for the green light to travel and sign for Chelsea ASAP. And this, for me, I think it's going to be a brilliant deal for Chelsea. I thought it for a while, and I'll say it again. This is going to be a brilliant, brilliant deal for Chelsea. A brilliant, brilliant deal. Ban Maradon for life, swinging off the cap locks. He's obviously gone and opened a new account. Is that what he's done? Has he opened a new account? Fair play to him. If he loves us that much, he can stay. If he loves us that much, he can stay. But look, I think Hato to Chelsea, I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic piece of business for Chelsea. I really, really do. Versatility, very high ceiling. Listen, you're from the Ajax Academy. Or is he from the Ajax Academy? I want to say he is. Now I've said, sometimes you say something and you're like, actually, could I be wrong? I mean, he's 19. I can't imagine that he's not. Well, it actually started. It says here he started at Sparta Rotterdam, then went on to Ajax. But he's going to have that technical ability. He's tall, versatile, athletic. I really do think this is a fantastic piece of business for Chelsea Football Club. I still believe they need some more experience in goal if they're to win the Premier League this year. But they're in this title race. They're adding strength. They're adding strength in depth is what I'm saying. They're adding more technical ability, excellent cover at centre-back and left-back because he can play in both positions. And listen, the hardest thing is they got Cucurella. And now Cucurella has probably been in the last 2 years the best left-back in the Premier League. But you've seen the way Timber went into Arsenal as a centre-back, but has played predominantly more at right-back. You could even see something like this with Hato. Goes in as a centre-back, covers a lot and does brilliantly at left-back. I'm intrigued. There is also a train of thought when talking to a few Chelsea fans that, listen, Levi Colwill had a very good end to the season last year, but there's been a lot of question marks over his future. Is he good enough for Chelsea? Is he of the right level as an example? And I think Hato is a brilliant foil for him. He's a brilliant sort of player to bring in and to have challenge. First of all, as backup, but then challenge him in terms of a position within the team. So from my point of view and perspective, I really do think that this is a fantastic piece of business overall. And look, he might need a little bit of an adjustment period coming into Chelsea. There's a lot of competition, but I think he'll rise above it. I think his ability, I think his ceiling will get him there. There's no doubt. He's just got such a great, unique defensive talent for a player of his age. The only fear I suppose I really have is he moving a little bit too young? People said, Terry, could it be like De Ligt? I'm going to tell you why it's not going to be like the De Ligt deal. And this is my personal opinion. I'd love to get your views on it. The reason why I don't think it's going to be like the De Ligt situation is De Ligt went for gargantuan money. De Ligt went to be the main man at Juve. And there's a different pressure that comes with that. Hato's coming in with a lot of excitement, a lot of hype, and a lot of anticipation for what he can become. But I don't think he's going to move into Chelsea Football Club to be the main man day one. And I personally think that is hugely significant. I think it's massive. If we're being absolutely honest, I think it's huge in relation to that. And I think that he goes in, it will be a decent fee, 40 odd million pounds, not a 70, 80, 90 million pound buy. And that can often be the difference between a player settling faster, not crumbling under the pressure at such a young age, especially when you're moving country, you're changing cultures. And although the Netherlands and the UK are not particularly far apart as the crow flies, there is going to be a big difference in culture in terms, not even so much weather, but just the day-to-day life. If you've ever lived in another country, not a holiday, but if you've ever lived in another country for a period of time, you do feel that. And when you're 19 and you're moving home, it can have that kind of impact. An update right now, as we're talking from Ben Jacobs, actually, is that Chelsea hoping to finalise the Hato deal this week. Potentially agreed in the next 24 to 48 hours. So a big update there from Ben Jacobs in relation to that deal. But Chelsea fans, let us know how excited you are. Let us know how happy you are about this potential deal. Let us know in the comments section below. Now, another part of the title of the show today is Sesko SNUBS United. And there's a few articles out there suggesting now that Newcastle are the favourites, that Newcastle want the player. I also spoke to a journalist who's quite close to Manchester United this morning. Just what's your opinions? What are you hearing? And he told me this was off record. So I'm keeping it off record in relation to using his name. But his view was that Man United are going to pivot away to Ollie Watkins. So some will say, well, that's because we've been rejected by Sesko. Some will say, no, Shesko's too expensive. The club is going to push the PR that we wanted Ollie Watkins. My view is that Sesko is either too expensive or has said no to us. And I'm happy to accept it. I'm not going to waste any time as a grown man arguing over that. We all get rejected. The biggest clubs in the world get rejected. It's the nature of the beast. If you can't handle it, go cry. Go ask your mum for a bit of bitty and cry, because I don't know what else to say to you. Watkins to Man United, if this is true. There was an interesting update from Ben Jacobs last night where he stated that Manchester United are in a position where they now believe that a £50 million bid, not 60 million, that Aston Villa quoted just over a week ago, would be an achievable number. Now, that would make it a deal. United valued him at 40 to 45 million. Villa valued him at 60 million. So what is a deal? A deal is essentially a negotiation. When you go into Tesco's and buy a loaf of bread for £1.20 and you go up to the till, you scan it, you pay for it. It's not a deal. You've paid the asking price. When a club wants 60 million, but you can work it down and get it at 50, it's a compromise. It is a deal. By the way, if Man United get him at 40 million, it isn't a deal for Villa because they've succumbed to what we're asking. So it would be a deal in that regard. I haven't changed my mind. I would prefer Sesko. And I've deliberated loads over this in the past few weeks. And I spoke yesterday at large on the United stand and on the Football Terrace that seeing another team close in on him really kind of focused my mind in relation to wanting the player, wanting to see it get done. And I do prefer and I do want Sesko. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I'm not going to sit here and BS. I'm not going to sit here and suddenly pretend that isn't what I personally wanted. I'm just not going to sit here and do that personally. So it is still what I want. That being said, I'm not going to undo the fact that Ollie Watkins is a brilliant striker. I'm not going to undo that he's the third or fourth highest goal scorer in the last 3 years in the Premier League. GA combined, I think he's third highest in the last 3 years combined. It's not an issue for me whatsoever. The price point for a player his age is important. 50 million is at the upper end of what I'd be willing to spend. Does it improve Manchester United? Yes. I think it helps us get an extra 20 to 30 points next year, adding him to that front line of Cunha and Mbeumo. I think they'll score a lot of goals between them. I am fearful still, and I am worried about the idea that Sesko would go to Newcastle and could become an absolute superstar. That worries me. That is a concern because, of course, I want Manchester United to get to the highest levels. I want Manchester United to achieve. I want Manchester United to be the best team in the world possible. And you do that by buying the best quality players. We know what Ollie Watkins' ceiling is going to be. That all being said, I'm not going to sit there and cry over Ollie Watkins. I'm not going to sit there and boo-hoo. I'm not going to sit there and moan. I'm not going to sit there and pretend that that's the end of Manchester United. The rebuild's been a shambles. All of our teams and all of our clubs have gone through club-level rebuilds, full squad rebuilds. There are always makeshift players that you buy. There are always individuals that come in for the short term rather than the long term. Everybody's done it. Every single person has done it. And sometimes it's been, I've seen Liverpool. Look at the tune they got out of an old James Milner for years. Versatile, covered positions, was important during injury crises and rotations, as an example. And you can go out there and find loads yourselves. You know, Gabriel Jesus It was actually shorter lived than they'd want it to have been, but came in and for a period of time did a fantastic job during Arsenal's growth. They've outgrown him the last few years and should have replaced him sooner. And that's the mistake I wouldn't want Man United to make. That if at the end of next season or the end of the season after, Watkins is starting to decline or we need someone better to go to that next level, I don't want us to dwell on that for too long. But that all being said, I'm not against the deal. So this is the great thing for me and my own personal feelings towards this. I'm not sitting there and going, oh no, we're going to end up with Watkins and I hate this deal and he's rubbish. Blah. That isn't how I feel about it at all. Watkins would be a very good signing for the club. That all being said, what do you all think? I'd love to get your views and opinions on this if Man United end up losing out. What do you all think? What do you all feel? What is your opinions on this? Let me know in the comments section below, people. So I'm just sorting something out on my X here. Bear with me a second while I'm sorting something out. Apologies, my people. Where is it at? No, that's not what I'm looking for. Bear with me a second. I'm just trying to get something to work, and it ain't working. Apologies. Right, there we go. I've got it on my screen now. Sorry, that's why it weren't on. The switch wasn't on for comments. That's why I couldn't see your comments coming through. So thank you very much for that. So yeah, that's my view on it. And I'm not really going to change my mind on that. Just like Isak, Terry is dreaming of Liverpool. No, it's not quite what I'm doing. Who wrote that? That's a weird comment for this stage of the show, but there we go. Terry, what's the latest on the Eze situation? Well, the Hand of Arsenal put out a very, very interesting update today. A very, very interesting update, which echoed a lot of what we spoke about last night when talking about this deal. And I'll tell you what he said, then I'll give you my interpretation of the situation. But he says here that the release clause does indeed expire on effective before deadline day. But he says, but I'm not sure if this changes the value that Palace have placed on Eze. Now, what's very interesting, a lot of people have said, why would Palace yield on the release clause? Why would they allow payment terms on the release clause? And well, the reason for that, and it's very, very clear why that is now, is because the release clause does run out. And because the release clause runs out, because the release clause expires, it does make absolute sense that they would negotiate ahead of time and put a payment structure in place. Now, what they're pushing for is £30 million up front, which interestingly is more than clubs want to ever pay year one for a player, unless they're a 150 million pound player. Nobody wants to pay half that transfer fee cash up front, and that is what Arsenal were negotiating on. He goes on to say that Arsenal and Palace have engaged in multiple talks. Sources have confirmed. As of today, Palace want approximately £30 million as the first payment. Personal terms are not an issue, which, like I said yesterday, the player is bought into Arsenal. That element of the deal is close or done. It says no further advancements as of today. But I think when you read it all, when you read between the lines, what this means is one thing. Both clubs are happy with the fee. Personal terms are done. It's just about the structure. So the deal from the perspective of the stages that you go through is close. You can see that it's close. It smells close. It looks close. It is close. And we can absolutely see that based on, you've got to convince the player, got to get a fee agreed, and then you do the structural elements of it. And that's what's being negotiated right now, is the structural elements of these deals. So that all being said, I don't necessarily think there's sort of too much I just don't think there's too much there for Arsenal fans, to stress themselves over in relation to that deal. It feels pretty decent, if that makes sense. But that's just my view. Let me know what your thoughts and your opinions are on that, people, in the live chat. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what your thoughts and what your feelings and what your opinions are on that in our comments section below. Just bear me 1 second. So KJ, go backstage and send you a message. Thank you. Send you a WhatsApp message, mate. Thank you. Let's go to some more of your comments that have come from here. Big up, Terry. What do you think about Chelsea valuing Jackson at 80 million and wanting Garnacho for 30 million? Well, it means it it's just public negotiations. They probably are happy to accept 50 to 60 for Jackson, and probably would end up paying 40 to 50 million for Garnacho. But of course, they're going to publicly state the opposite. That doesn't bother me at all. Thoughts on Eze? Fantastic footballer, improves Arsenal massively, makes them a much better, much stronger, much more potent team, without a shadow of a doubt. A much more potent team without a shadow of a doubt. So yeah, I think that's a fantastic piece of business for them. Fantastic piece of business indeed for them. Yeah, but I think yeah, that's what I think. I don't know how else to say it other than that. KJ, what you sent me doesn't seem to want to work on my computer. And I don't know why. I'm not too sure why. Let me try it here. Sorry, peep. Sorry, my peeps. No, it's not. Let's have a look at some more of your comments here. Terry, any news on a centre-back to Liverpool? There's not been any real updates on the centre-back situation for Liverpool now for a hot minute. Not for a while now has there been an update on that in relation to somebody kind of coming in. We all know, obviously, the situation with I can't remember the name of them now. Why can't I remember their names? The situation with Mark Gahey, and that's one to watch. That's one to watch, in my personal opinion. So keep your eyes out for that, because I think that's going to be a very, very interesting one indeed. I think that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on later in the window. Show me empirical evidence that Eze wants Arsenal. See, I know what you're doing here, because I talk about I say show me empirical evidence that being angry at your club every day improves it. But what I can give you is multiple journalists who come with a higher level of credibility that have stated that he's keen, that he's agreed personal terms, or personal terms would be no issue. So from a transfer perspective, that's enough evidence for me, but it's still only an opinion. And I'm very, very clear about that, my friend. So as long as somebody's willing to state that I think being angry, my opinion is it makes the team better, is fine. It's when people start claiming it's a fact that I'm asking for empirical evidence. Do you think City will do well enough? I mean, I don't know what you mean by do well enough. Well enough for them is winning the league. Do I think City need to do more in terms of the transfer window? Yes. I know they bought Trafford back. I'm surprised they haven't bought more people. Genuinely surprised that more people haven't come into Manchester City. Three good deals. Praise those deals. They deserve praise for them. That being said, by now, I would have expected a little bit more. I'd have expected a little bit more by now. Should turn this sound off. Yeah, from my point of view and perspective, I expected more from Man City at this stage. I expected them to have purchased more and to have bought more players. Absolutely. Wages, Terry. I don't know what you mean by wages. Expand on that, my friend. Terry, the links won't go away for Rodrigo and Leao potentially moving to Arsenal. Your thoughts? Look, I'm only going to go by what's being reported. And you are right, the links are still there. And I think it's important to never go 100% it isn't happening. But most credible journalists at the moment are literally saying that it's going to be Eze and that's it. That could change, though. And maybe that's part of Arsenal's strategy, is to kind of play it down and to not sort of talk about the potential of both. Get Carl Anker on the show. I've DM'd him before. He never came back to me. I won't DM him. Well, I will DM him again, but I don't think he's interested. So yeah, I don't just keep chasing the same journalist. I've asked him to. I think I've DM'd him twice in 5 years. Didn't come back to me. That's fair. He may not have even seen it, but yeah, I won't keep DMing because that's a bit weird, isn't it? If Liverpool don't get a centre back, we are winning the league, is what Arsenal Avenger says here. Terry, have you noticed that fans are not talking about City's chances as much? Yes, that's because they're not doing much transfer activity. And they bought the 3 players they didn't have a great Club World Cup. So there's this view of like, are they going to go backwards still? They're also not playing in pre-season. They're not really linked to any top players at the moment. So I think there's very little conversation about Man City. When they start their pre-season games in the next week or so, maybe they sign a big player. I think the conversations will rise again in that regards. Kane here says Ben Jacobs reported Palace want 45 million for Mark Gahey and Liverpool are waiting for it to come down. I hope Newcastle use their Isak money and go over the top for him, or at least force their hand. I still don't see that happening. If Liverpool want him, the player will just pick Liverpool and say no to, and will say no to Newcastle, and that will be that at the end of the day. Liverpool are not going to lose a battle this summer to Newcastle. They're not going to let it happen, in my personal opinion. They're just not going to let it happen. Not for love nor money. Thanks for the reply on City, Terry. Keep up your hard work, Arsenal fan here. Big up yourself, Mo. Thank you very much. Why isn't Eze training already with Arsenal? Why is it taking so long? Because this is the nature of transfers. You know, Arsenal don't want to pay £30 million cash up front. I make them absolutely right. Palace don't want to yield on that. I make them absolutely right. This is part and parcel. Even the best run clubs in the world have deals that protrude well into pre-season. Happens every year. It will continue to happen. It is not a sign of being serious or unserious, because based on that, Barcelona aren't serious, PSG aren't serious, Real Madrid aren't serious. Liverpool can't be called serious because they still haven't got their centre-back or Isak done. So, you know, people pick and choose when they want to talk about being serious. At the end of the day, we can't ignore the processes that go into transfers. What if we get Eze and Leao? How do you rate the window for Arsenal? It's probably an 8 out of 10. Probably an 8 out of 10. Probably. I'm not Leao's biggest fan. I think he tackles himself too much. That being said, he's very good against Liverpool the other day when they beat them. But yeah, I think he's a decent player. I think he's a decent player. I think he's a decent player. I'm just not maybe blown away by him as other people are. But yeah, he's still a decent, still a decent player. I would say. I wouldn't say it's crap like some idiots do. Some people literally say it's crap, which I never really understand. Let's have a look here. No word on City or the 115. No, there's been no updates at all about that. There was that weird rumor the other day that they'd gotten away with it. They were found innocent, but nothing more. Nothing more than that. So let's wait and see what happens there. Let's have a look at more comments here. Eze and Leao is a 10 out of 10 window. From a positional point of view, I mean, it would be the left side striker, 10, or attacking midfield, cover for Saka, cover at centre-back, cover at goalkeeper, Zubimendi. It's fantastic. I mean, it would be a very, very good window on paper. And I don't think it would make Arsenal favourites in anybody's eyes, but it gives them a great chance of winning trophies, a great chance of winning trophies. No doubt about that whatsoever. Do you think Man City have basically bought players in because they know of a transfer ban? The Premier League are probably being paid off by the Arabs as we speak. I don't think just because the Arabs have money, there's no evidence of bribery towards the officials. So I'm not going to push a claim like that. Have they spent 500 odd million over 2 windows because they might get banned from buying players? Potentially. That's why they've spent that much. That being said, I don't think they have any idea what's going to happen. I don't think they have any idea at all. I don't think they've got any idea whatsoever about how much what's going to happen with that at all. Rob here says City trying to find a big enough carpet to buy so they can sweep it all those charges under. This here says Arteta deserves credit for the change of mentality within the dressing room, removing certain characters and instilling standards. Then recruitment has been complemented by this. Of course, he deserves credit for helping to improve the way that they operate, the way they conduct themselves. That element of Arsenal is improved, and I think anyone who denies that is just being a disingenuous liar would be the word I would use. You're a disingenuous liar if you don't see that there have been improvements in that way. You're a liar. Simple and as straightforward as that. You're a liar. Liverpool attack now lacks width. They need wingers. It doesn't lack width. Let's be honest about this. They've got Kirkes and Robertson that can supply them with width. Ekitike can hug that touchline and play out wide, plus can invert from that position. Gakpo can play out there as an example. Have you seen young Rio? I forget his surname. This young lad Rio they've got as well. That's 5 options I've named for you there that can go out wide for them. So they have width in this team. They have versatility in this side. And versatility is an underlooked. It's being brushed over. Everybody wants specialists in every role. If you have specialists in every role, you're not winning the league. You can't win the league with a specialist in every role. You need that versatility. You need someone that can hug a touchline and invert. You need some players that can play in an 8 and then can play in a DM role. You need some players that are strikers but are very comfortable going into wide positions. You need that versatility to handle adversity in games, to handle injury situations, to counteract certain tactics and systems. You can't be rigid and, okay, well, this player can only play in one role, in one position in this team, and that's it. If you have too many players like that, you're not winning the league. I don't think they lack width at all. At all. Terry, where do I think Chelsea are lacking? In goal. Chelsea are lacking in goal, in my opinion, right now. And that's because I'm nitpicking between a team that's going to make the top 4 and a team that could potentially win the Premier League. If you had Alisson in goal, if you had Rare in goal, if you had a top Magnon in goal, I think that's an extra 5 to 10 points you could earn in a year. And those extra 5 to 10 points are the difference between being 4th or 3rd and maybe winning the league. I think it's going to be that because the league is going to be that close. I think you have to nitpick in that way when you're breaking down who you think is going to win, where do you think players are going to come, etc. I think you really have to be mindful of that and look at it in that way. Donnarumma to Chelsea. Listen, if Chelsea get Donnarumma, they could win the league. Because there'll be games that they maybe deserve to lose that a keeper like him would stop them from losing and pick up points in. So they sign a Donnarumma, that's a whole different kettle of fish. Completely different kettle of fish. Dick here says, snubbed by Delap, Gyökeres, Ekitike, Sesko, ha ha ha, Muddy United, Muddy Mud 15. Yeah, look, but we also got players like Mbeumo and Cunha that rejected clubs like Newcastle and Arsenal, etc. for us, Chelsea for us. So I'm not particularly concerned as long as we get a decent striker in. You know, if we end up with Watkins, that's fair enough. I knew we'd get rejections this year because I understand where my club is. I understand how far we are away from the pinnacle. I know how long it's going to take to fix this. So from my point of view and perspective, I can just take that on the chin. I don't need to cry like a baby. I can stay relaxed to a certain degree. And yeah, we have to go out there and we have to go and try and win. And we have to try and become a better team and then be able to attract more people. It's as simple and as straightforward as that for me. Simple and as straightforward as that. This here, KJ just put this into us. He says, Arsenal have been informed that they would have to pay more than half of Eze's release clause up front to sign him. Crystal Palace are determined to not allow him to leave than less than the 67.5 million in bonuses. And that's what Arsenal have got to try and get down. You know, and that's what Arsenal have got to try and negotiate. That's what they've got to try and get done. Or Liverpool in on goal here. Oh, that's a lovely bit of skill. Oh, is that penalty? Unlucky there by Gakpo. I don't know if I give him penalty or not. I haven't got the sound on, but there we go. Mbeumo rejecting Arsenal whilst you got bent over to buy him. Well, so now we're going on about price. So for instance, people have laughed at how much. See, this is where I want the energy to be the same. So people are laughing at how much money Sesko is going to cost. People also said at the time that Liverpool were paying too much for an unproven Hugo Ekitike. So what are we saying here? Can Arsenal not be bantered for being rejected because you think United paid too much, but Man United can be bantered for being rejected for 2 players that the world is saying are too expensive? Which one is it? Which one is it? Let me know. Because again, that's where the banter falls down and doesn't make any sense. And Bumo wanted United only. Yeah, we know this. And this is it. I can take my club being rejected. It just seems like many of you can't. Come on, grow up. Can you play that? I don't have that clip available right now, but we will play it. We will play it again. I promise you. I promise you we will play it. Look, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Well, we're going to be live again a little bit later today. We've got Straight Facts coming up for you, plus other shows. I know we're a little bit late going live today, but yeah, StreamYard was doing a madness. Until next time, my people, I want you to all look after yourselves, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you all around 3:15 for Straight Facts. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. I'll see you all soon. Peace.